And welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report. We have Leo Lyons-Agami. We're trying to track him down. I did get a message really late last night or early in the morning. I'm sometimes up in the middle of the night with more than just a touch of insomnia, doing research on many different topics or responding to consults, etc. One of the issues that came up, and I like to have basically an openness to deal with issues, is Jonathan Gray came up with some issues and conjectures and some statements regarding the fact that Donald Trump is a Scottish Rite Royal Arch Mason. And then, of course, he tried to tie it to the Jesuits because of a couple of, circumstantial issues. I posted up a very brief video with some of the statements he made. I personally support Donald Trump, and I think that one of the mistakes we make is that we assume that all secret orders are, in a sense, evil. And I have to tell you that that's not true. I personally, 2 months before I went to medical school in 1973, joined Phi Rho Sigma. In fact, there were two fraternities, and they were thought to be the top in terms of doing medical research, solving problems. There were no signs whatsoever of anything evil about our Phi Rho Sigma or Phi Chi fraternities. In fact, if you go to all my sons are involved with honor societies like Phi Beta Kappa and all these other ones that are top students. These are all fraternities. So I want you to understand that we put up that statement to kind of give you a counter to the fact that it's not equivalent. Donald Trump is making some Masonic signs, but I can tell you that the policies that he's going to put in place are good for America. The fact that he's a Christian pro-life person, I consider him in a sense a baby Christian because he's in the process of learning. I think the process of going through the last year and a half to see Americans suffering under the previous bad judgment of Barack Obama and the previous administration of George Bush Jr., George Bush Sr., Bill Clinton, I think Americans should have a sigh of relief that we are finally have some grace. It's very likely that the Supreme Court will be stacked with justices that will get rid of Roe versus Wade, and we're going to get rid of the abomination of abortion. We're going to have controlled borders. We're going to vet Muslims. We're going to make certain that they can't come from countries that are dangerous. We're going to make certain that terrorism is put down and that we're going to grab on the streets potential criminals and gang members, and if they have an illegal weapon, they're going to prison for 5 years. That needs to happen. I think you're going to see America safe again, great again, jobs again. You're going to see that our interaction with countries like Russia, which I do believe is a threat, and I think that we're going to see that Russia wants to control not only the Mediterranean but the Atlantic Ocean. They retool their military. They only have 1/16 the size of the economy, and it's very unlikely that they're ever going to get much bigger than that, although their military is very dangerous, and we have to understand. Leo, welcome. It's great to have you here. I know you saw my messages last night. I like to wade into the swamp, even if there's alligators there. And on Wednesday, when I had Jonathan Gray on, he made some statements. He often makes controversial statements, and made statements about the fact that Donald Trump is a Scottish Rite Royal Arch Mason, which is probably true. But they have to understand there's a number of secret orders that do great good. In fact, if it wasn't for the secret orders that founded America, we wouldn't have America. If it wasn't for medical fraternities like the one I belong to, Phi Rho Sigma and Phi Chi, many of the medical discoveries that people enjoy wouldn't exist. And also the repository of ancient knowledge that transcends even the universities wouldn't exist. And because most of the we call the public aren't really aware of this, that the repository of the ancient knowledge in the universities was secret orders, that there are good and there are evil, just like everywhere. And I consider Donald Trump a very good man. I consider him sometimes with regard to his tongue naive, like a high school student that's a little bit socially inept. But I think other than that, I think he's a good man. His policies are fantastic, and I support him 1,000%. I want you to do a little rebuttal to some of the things that we discussed on Wednesday, and of course I countered Jonathan with his statements that tried to make an assumption that there's a link with the Jesuits. I don't think so. The idea that you're going to defend Catholics or any other version of Christianity is a kind of a blanket statement if you're an American. In fact, you defend every religion except for Islam. Islam is dangerous, and people need to grasp that. My great-grandparents came to North America because of Islam. My ancestor in the 11th century was fighting as a general fighting the Muslims in the Shuf Mountains around Beirut. He was a Maronite Christian, a blood descendant directly from Moses, and whose ancestor in the Sanhedrin was one of the senior rabbis in the rabbinate of the Sanhedrin, and worked with Joseph of Arimathea. So I can tell you that people need to understand that even the priesthoods of most of the major religions have some form of secret order. They aren't all bad, are they?
Well, of course not. There is always been, since the beginning of time, a confrontation between the sons of Abel and Cain. No? There's been a confrontation that goes into the remote dawns of time. So we can say that Trump is, of course, a representative of the establishment. I also, as a Mason, want to point out that Royal Arch and Scottish Rite are two different things, though you have the degree of the Royal Arch within the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite system.
Right.
So sometimes for people who are not, of course, within the fraternity, it's a little bit complex to understand all the values.
So I probably don't have the term exactly right, but what would you describe, because I know that Donald's himself and probably his daughter Ivanka, who has done some of the Masonic signs on camera, and people assume this wonderful woman who's trying to get health benefits for working mothers is somehow has some evil intent. I mean, it's bizarre, isn't it?
Well, we know that Ivanka married into a man of Jewish faith. She embraced the Jewish faith. That's not something that we should condemn, as we shouldn't condemn also the attempt that now Trump will have to do to kind of at least find a reconciliation with the Vatican, because as a head of state he has to find this kind of reconciliation after there was a brutal attack, I think an unprecedented attack by a pope on an American candidate, because if you go and read the newspapers from a few months ago, at the beginning of the year, there was this attack from Pope Francis against Trump's ways. Right. Which were defined as not Christian. I think that
I don't know
now...
What do you think his agenda was? Because I'm not sure if this was a very...
The agenda was... No, it was an intelligent move, but of course the thing is that you have to understand that they were pretty sure that their candidate will win, and their candidate was of course Hillary Clinton with the vice president, a Jesuit, Tim Kaine. So there is no connection whatsoever between the Jesuits and Trump. Right, yeah. There is only one connection, though. There is a connection that exists, but with the Sovereign Order of the Knights of Malta, in a way that is diplomatic, because the Knights of Malta often have to work within the diplomacy field at high levels.
In fact, the Knights of Malta opened up the pathway for pilgrims to go to the Holy Land.
Knights of Malta are, of course, yes, together at the time with the Knights Templar and the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, the three main orders of knights from the Vatican. And the Knights of Malta, in this case, are just trying to find a way in which Trump can dialogue peacefully with Pope Francis or with the Vatican. I think that is in the Vatican interest now to align themselves, because they have showed also within the Catholic Church that this policy of Pope Francis is really divisive, because now many Catholics...
It's not only divisive, it's dangerous, because his dialogue with Islam will eventually destroy the Vatican, as prophesied, and he doesn't see the danger, does he?
He is not only not seeing the danger, he is promoting the danger, because it's financed by George Soros. George Soros and all his acolytes, but also Rothschild. Actually today, one of the guys who represents the Bank de Rothschild, who is Carlo De Benedetti, who is an Italian tycoon, has expressed concerns towards Trump. So, of course, the Rothschilds, Soros, all these people are expressing concerns because they are scared of their future. I think that at the same time, though, Trump finds himself humbled, as we can see from the way he was received there at the White House in front of Barack Obama, humbled by his new office. And I think that it will take him some time to, at least I hope by the beginning of the next year, when he has to really go into office, he will achieve the necessary confidence in what he will be doing. He's definitely chosen people in America and around the world that will bring a new age of prosperity and peace.
It's almost better that he's a fast learner and he's a problem solver rather than someone with experience that'll consider himself and his own experience trumps those who are more expert than himself. So in other words, the fact that he is a novice in many ways and learning quickly, he'll rely on support and advisors that are far superior to any knowledge that he or Hillary could have, in whether it's military affairs or healthcare or other issues. And that is a good thing. It means that he's going to be more of a commander of an army of experts rather than being a kind of in a sense, a dictator like Obama, who acted imperially, including with his pen and his phone, passing tons of executive orders, including ramming through Obamacare, because if it was done more bipartisanly, it wouldn't be being dismantled right now.
I also think that after these elections, people should take in serious consideration dismantling completely the Libertarian Party, because it really kind of didn't get anywhere. And I think that the choice they had was really not up to the confrontation. At the same time, not supportive enough of Trump when it should have been so, after years of battles with Ron Paul and so on. So, that is also something that we have to take into account. But when it comes to Trump in the White House, I think that there is, of course, a lot of hope from all of us, and at the same time, we have to understand that the position of responsibility that all of us have now, also as an alternative media, because Republic Broadcasting, like many other alternative medias, have managed to pull off a stunt that has really brought us to the attention of the mainstream media, because the mainstream media now doesn't have a...
we have millions of audience every week. We are larger than MSNBC, just our radio broadcast, let alone all our videos that we put out. And by the way, this week I have full production now coming that'll be fully installed probably as early as today, that allow me to have live stream multimedia up to 10 different locations in the world simultaneously for live broadcasts and conferences, just like Fox News or ABC. I'll have that capability later today.
That sounds like great news. As I was saying yesterday, I commented from Rome. It was actually 9 o'clock local time here in Europe when Trump went on stage to deliver his first presidential speech after winning, and that was the time in which I started this live broadcast on one of the main radios in Rome, which is broadcast on 106.6 and then nationwide, called Radio Rock. That was the only radio really that in the last 3 years has given me the opportunity, because all other radios in the mainstream are, of course, censored. They are under the control of these tycoons like Soros and company that want censorship. They don't want freedom of speech. I think that now the main thing we have to do as supporters of Donald Trump is to propose the possibility for Snowden and for Assange to come back, at least for Snowden in his own country, and for Assange to at least go out of the embassy where he has been stuck for many years as a captive prisoner of Obama and, of course, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, you know what's amazing? And I mentioned this a number of times, although most of the time people don't take me seriously. I've released more classified information about things like U.S. Space Command, strategic defense, and military operations, including the fact that 9/11 was an inside job with actual contacts with the munitions expert from Finland who was contracted with the Port Authority, than either Assange or whatever. I haven't had thousands of WikiLeaks emails and so on, but I've never had anybody try to confront me from the intelligence agency, because I had presidential level clearance and a vast knowledge of stuff I haven't even released yet of what really is going on behind the scenes. People really have no idea what's going on in our government, do they? And the problem I'm amazed that there's a lot of whistleblowers that will come anonymously, even on this show, and they pick people like Assange and WikiLeaks, etc., and so that they can terrorize people to not come forward with the truth. Because if we had a full flow of truth tellers, including whistleblowers, with true whistleblower protection, the government would never get away with the foolishness of what the Clinton Foundation and the corrupt government actions like the Department of Injustice and the Department of the FBI, who now they shunned Comey. I don't know how well he's going to do. I think the fact that he did this and then tried to do another pass on Hillary Clinton, my guess is he's going to be replaced, but they're never going to get away with anything like this again to what Comey pulled off. And they're never going to put somebody in as the director of the FBI who hasn't had field experience as an investigator. This guy's a banker's lawyer. He is not an FBI director. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's ridiculous what has happened, but also it's ridiculous the way the star system, the Hollywood star system, the singers, the actors have completely supported Hillary with no shame. And also, let's not forget the latest video of Marilyn Manson, one of the biggest satanic artists in the world, right, where Donald Trump is actually beheaded in the video. I mean, we are talking here about something that is completely not only of bad taste, but I think it's subversive. So here we have
there's an element beyond that. There's an element beyond that. And one of the things that you and I are aware of is the operation in the astral or the spirit plane. And those things are intention fields to try to create a reality in our physical level, which means to literally bring a curse on Donald to try to bring about an assassination. And people need to understand that there's a great deal of danger. Donald, of course, has dealt with business people all over the world for decades through his own private security force. He shouldn't rely only on the Secret Service, because the danger now of crazy groups like MoveOn.org and Black Lives Matter, managed by George Soros, the next thing I would expect would be a very major increase in the risk of him being assassinated. And when Marilyn Manson does these ceremonies, it's not just a media stunt. It's a demonic calling forth of demonic powers of darkness to actually kill him. People need to understand that, don't they?
Well, now the main problem in the last few hours since Trump has won is to define really who are his real first supporters, the ones who have supported him up to the election,
right,
and the ones who instead will jump on the bandwagon. Because the great danger, unfortunately, is that these newcomers are infiltrators that will try in every way possible to get people astray in regards to Donald Trump. On the other side, we see also George Soros financing his usual mercenaries in each city, and that is pretty obvious who is behind that.
Yeah. Now, let's go look at a couple of characters, and I want to see what your analysis is. Two in particular, Mayor Giuliani, who has been a very staunch supporter and a very logical supporter of Donald Trump, but on the other hand, I'm very concerned that he should have known that 9/11 was an inside job. Now, maybe he didn't, but the Port Authority of New York did contract in 1998 with this Finnish munitions expert to demolish the World Trade Center towers with nukes. And they were going to contract with the Israeli Mossad nuclear division, which, by the way, since the 1960s stole the Davy Crockett and miniaturized it in Israel. In fact, a lot of their battlefield weapons are small, we call battlefield nukes that the Israelis have, developed from this project. In Malaysia, that bar that was blown up, remember, a number of years ago, that was actually a micronuke from the Mossad. What people need to understand is that Israel is a rogue nation. It's very dangerous, and it needs to come under the total control of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I don't have any problem with defending Israel. I just don't want them to be able to set up operations to do things, including selling intelligence information and military technology to foreign powers, which they've done to China. In fact, the CC-3 missile that the Chinese have years ago is literally a knockoff of American missile technology. So, Israel needs to be chained and controlled by our military instead of being rogue. And, 9/11 was an inside job, and Giuliani concerns me because he should have known that this is what was going on. So when we come back, we'll talk about that. Well, I wanted to mention about your response to analysis of a few people around Donald, that give me a little concern about whether or not they may be, pulling Donald aside. Where Rudy Giuliani looks like he's going to get a pretty high position. He traveled to pretty well every state with Donald. He was actually a very good campaigner or surrogate. We also have the former mayor of New Jersey as well. And I'm wondering, what do you think of some of these individuals that are around him, that have a little bit of more of a globalist bent?
In what sense, sorry?
Yeah, like for example, the former governor of New Jersey that was involved with Bridgegate. Remember that? Of course, there's still brewing.
Well, in regards to, to positions now of power and responsibility within future Trump's future government, of course, right. He has chosen what the establishment offers, some though of the best choices because of the way they are prepared. And I think that Giuliani is, of course, a man of great stature, politically speaking.
Oh yeah, I think he'd make a good, basically director of the Department of Justice, and I think he would continue the investigation of the Clinton Foundation. They put the question to him, and somehow, believe it or not, saying that they wanted to see if Obama would pardon her. And then I loved his answer.
Well, the thing is
that basically he wouldn't. He said, "How can it justify going after a foundation with say $50,000 on one issue when there's dozens and dozens of issues that deal with anywhere from up to $100 million? With the Clinton Foundation, you give her a pardon. You can't do that."
Okay, but what's happening now is even more important, because Hillary is already planning to leave, and she has already put millions of dollars in her accounts, both in Switzerland and also in the Emirates. So she is actually preparing to depart from the U.S. She's moving all the assets of the foundation very quickly in the last few days already, probably already expecting that this could happen.
Right.
And we're talking here about hundreds of millions. We're not talking here about peanuts.
Right.
So Hillary is building up already the possibility of escaping abroad, because she knows that she will be conducted to justice, and she will have to face justice. And that will be in itself already, I think, too much for her. After being brought to so close to the presidency, and now instead ending up facing justice. We saw also that the face of Bill Clinton showed next to Hillary the complete desperation of the duo, and she apparently has been crying for hours and hours, during this whole process. So definitely these people have lost. They have lost. They will be, though, very dangerous, because desperate people do desperate things. So I think that for the American justice now, and for Trump, is he has to actually act very fast, because I think by the time actually he goes into office, Hillary and Bill might have already moved all their assets. So,
well, there's three things that he needs to ask Obama to do. Number one, don't pardon her. Number two, freeze the assets of the foundation. And number three, start opening up an investigation by insisting that the Department of Justice sets a special prosecutor now, rather than waiting to Inauguration Day, so they can start reopening this, and Loretta Lynch can keep herself recused from being involved.
I got to thank you first. Thanks to you, Leo, Tim, and Dr. Diego for since the August 11th show about the strawmanstory.info and the Gulen Turkey Albert Pike fake World War III. We've kind of been able to develop some Putin back channels through our audio comments, and so we've kind of avoided the guns of August. So for Leo, for your January book, if you could look at this website, Richie for Boston, and the YouTube is titled 9/11 Conspiracy Solved 2016, and this would be basically an interview that someone like Rudy would have to watch, and then basically say, "Oh, really? That's what went on?" And then you really then can do an interview and see if he wasn't involved in it, then you give him immunity and give him a post in the position. But then what happens is you don't want to have Hillary basically indicted until after Trump is in place and Obama's out, because a pardon is only valid for someone who's been convicted of something. You can't accept a pardon unless you're convicted. And so you can't convict her until after Obama's out. Otherwise, everything will go to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Comey is a player now, and that Comey will probably not prosecute the foundation until well after January 20th. Your comments,
Right.
Leo? Leo, what do you think? I can't.
You lost Leo.
Yeah, that's.
Sorry, yes, I'm back online now. I think it's a very complex answer to give because we don't really know how fast Trump will act in regards to Hillary. If now, during the intelligence briefings, I know that Obama has spoke for a long time with Trump about internal issues and also external issues. And of course, it depends how corrupt is the intelligence, the U.S. intelligence establishment in regards to the Clinton Foundation. Meaning, if the U.S. intelligence has had, let's say, something to do with this Clinton Foundation, especially in the operations that went on abroad, that becomes a very big problem then in attacking the Clinton Foundation because it could backfire. So we really need to know the extent of how the Clinton Foundation is or is not something that comes from the inside within the intelligence community. We have to understand that both the Clintons have been in the CIA since the 70s.
Right.
So it's very possible and highly possible that when they went to create the Clinton Foundation, they did it, as it sometimes happened, as a covert operation partly for U.S. Intelligence activities. So this, how we're going to know this is very difficult, you understand, because it touches the very inside of the American establishment. So if this is not the case, if the Clinton Foundation is only an external foundation, doesn't have anything of inside the actual U.S. State Department, then at that point I think we can go towards Hillary and condemn her, and of course then it, for a legal course to take on with the whole judgment and whatever.
So what you're saying, Leo, is you think that it might open a can of worms that deals with deep elements within the government in terms of using it as an operational platform for foreign arms shipment or money transfers, etc. We already know that's happening. Here's a little info for you. We have people that come on the program that come under pseudonyms. They're inside the Pentagon and inside Homeland Security that actually come on this show under pseudonyms. And so the fact is, it doesn't really matter either way, because the people, say, for example, the field officers in at least 4 to 5 different sites in America are investigating not only the Clinton Foundation, but pay-to-play and other issues, and they're going to continue whether or not the director tells them to do so or not. And they can't be removed from their offices, because when you're in the FBI, you're in the FBI, and you have to remove an officer doing an active operation is not something that's they're going to get away with it, including Comey. So it's my guess this will continue for probably a year and a half, and it'll be well into the end of 2 years, or the first half of the term of Trump, before it comes to a head where he's going to decide. But my guess is he's going to literally probably appoint Rudy Giuliani to be the director of the Department of Justice, which means he's going to immediately not only basically recruit himself by actually separating and getting a special prosecutor. That, I think, will happen before the end of January. And so when Rudy Giuliani does that, because he's going to be almost certainly the best person to be the director of the Department of Justice, even by his current statements and analysis and legal knowledge, I know because I'm half a lawyer myself, that it's virtually certain before February 1 that the special prosecutor will be on the case, and it'll take about a year and a half, and it won't matter if she moves to Qatar or whatever. They can freeze her funds through the SWIFT system. They can actually, if they need to, go grab Delta Force. And by the way, that's something I'd also recommend that Trump does. The very first thing he does, besides calling Carrier Air Conditioning, is to get Delta Force to go and seize Mr. Soros in whatever country he's in, grab him, and put him into military court here in America as an international criminal. And that needs to happen immediately. And anyone else that's doing things like that, these billionaires that are supporting Black Lives Matter and MoveOn.org and terrorist organizations, they need to immediately be seized by our Delta and Special Ops. I was their doctor, so I know how these guys operate. Believe me, and one of the guys told me, he said, if we want you, and it's the middle of winter in Antarctica, and you're in the McMurdo Base in Antarctica, we got you within 48 hours. So,
Dr. Deagle and Leo, last question. For Huma is the key to this. She may be a triple agent that has deep cover back into the CIA the way she was exported when she was 2.
Right.
And the comments that came out with Wiki that basically she was doing these satanic demonstrable things. So I don't know if it's the Muslim Brotherhood connection or a deep, like a triple agent level thing, but Huma's the key in the next 2 or 3 months of everything that's going on right now.
Well, it may or may not be true, but here's the thing about Abedin. Remember, Taqiyya and Maruna, the Muslims will to pervert even the statements that are in parts of the Quran. Remember, the Quran is a very chameleon type of pseudo-religion. And according to Walid Shabat, who was a Palestinian terrorist and is a Christian now with his son Theodore in their ministry, Walid.com, or Shubat.com, SHOEBAT.com, the fact is that Abedin was for a number of years the junior editor of a publication out of Saudi Arabia that supported genital mutilation, caning women, and all kinds of horrifying things. Abedin is also involved with the sexual perversion rings that are involved with her husband, Wiener. We want to just think that he's the only one that's a pervert. She's a pervert as well, and involved with most likely satanic rituals that are involved with Hillary Clinton, because I know from my other sources that one of her favorite things to do is to observe firsthand underage snuff ceremonies that are satanic of children. So if you think that we haven't plumbed the depths of just how evil this is, and again, remember, Islam has more high-level demonic or satanic, if you want to call it, covens or groups within the secret orders than any other religious group on earth. That's why they're what we call kissing cousins of the globalist satanic Khazarian Jews who are running the world banking system under the Vatican. So people need to start grasping that there's a very high-level connection between satanic Islam and high-level Khazarians. That's why the Saudi agents work, for example, are often dual agents of the Israeli Mossad and Saudi Arabia, and they actually have dual certifications in both countries.
Right. The Jinn is out on this game. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So, Leo, I think that's probably what's going to happen. Almost certainly, from all the observations and analysis, I would put money on it, and I don't bet, that Giuliani will be the director of the Department of Justice and order within a week the special prosecutor to go after Clinton. And it'll take a year and a half to actually close the case, which is long after Obama's gone. What do you think?
When it comes down to Obama's time that he has left now, he can still, I think, place a few mines that will later explode into Trump's hands. So he has to be very careful now. Because
what things can he do now? I can tell you, because remember, I don't talk about everything I know, because I had presidential level security clearance and I have contacts inside the government. And I don't talk about it all on my show, but I can tell you that Obama is a foreign national. He was born in Kenya and had a false birth certificate photoshopped in Hawaii. That his family are deep CIA operations for multiple generations, including his mother and his grandfather. People need to start understanding who this is. This guy is a child born of the CIA, so is Bill and Hillary Clinton. And the CIA and the secret intelligence agencies did a coup d'etat with the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And they, along with the No Such Agency or NSA, are running the world. They're not just running our country. Even 3Com, which is a phone company that comes into China because they don't have landlines, is run by the NSA. Okay? Facebook, Twitter, all these social media organizations are all just arms of the No Such Agency and directly connected to the CIA and other intelligence agencies. The project was completed in 1982 by George Bush Sr., called Project Omega, which is a super agency over all secret agencies on the planet, and it was originally conceived in Nazi Germany in the 1930s. So people need to understand that what's really going on is that the secret agencies have taken over world government, and our New World Order really is the amalgam of the satanic secret agencies like the Brazilian Security Police, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, MI5, MI6. These agencies are all what we call the dark majesty of evil that run the world, and George Bush Sr. was the one who completed the project in 1982.
Well, I think that the problem that really presses me more in this moment, if you want to know the truth, is the fact that finally things are coming really, the enemy now, once it's hit, will start to come out and showing itself in its weak spots. And now Silicon Valley wants to ask with California succession from the United States soon.
Yeah,
and that is, that is where it's all going. California is a renegade state. They have been brainwashed
by how can they do that, though? I mean, I live in Southern California in San Diego, and to be honest with you, it should probably break up into 4 states: San Diego County, Orange County, et cetera. And the northern parts of the state in San Diego are very conservative. The middle parts of the state are very liberal, and I don't see that this is going to go anywhere. Black Lives Matter, move on, and they can protest all they want. Millions of regular Americans here are not going to vote for secession. This is ridiculous. So they can squirm and cry and whine all they want, and they can do terrorism and smash cars. It's not going to mean a damn thing. I even had a call from my son who lives up in Oregon. Oh, you need to move out of the state. I said, I'm not moving anywhere. If necessary, I'll lock and load. And let me tell you, I know how to build technology that can be a lot more dangerous than guns, including not only a physical body, but on the mind. And if they think that some guy like George Soros sitting like the Baron Harkonnen flying around in his gravity suit is going to use his billions of dollars to manipulate our government and cause these thugs, Black Lives Matter, move on to make us leave the United States, they're delusional.
Yeah, well,
not going to happen. Not even going to happen. It's a lot of fluff, a lot of foolishness. And they're going to terrorize, they're going to secede. These people in Silicon Valley, most of these people, except for, what's his name, Thiel, are lockstep with the NSA because every one of them has been told and has backdoor deals with the No Such Agency to make sure that none of their systems are using what's called prime number encryption, so that they're all basically branches and connected through the back door to the No Such Agency. The NSA is 300 times larger in terms of funding than the CIA. The CIA is larger in funding than all other secret agencies on the planet. And people need to grasp that the major power in the world in terms of secret agencies, intelligence, and data is the United States of America. And the USA, that's why they have these giant data centers. In fact, they had one up in Utah they're building. It's so big they're going to divert the river to the point where it actually would draw away water from towns and cities nearby just to cool their giant supercomputers. Thousands of acres, literally, of supercomputers. So people need to start grasping what's really going on here is the United States is out of touch with reality, and they're run by a bunch of satanic secret agencies that literally want to crush the earth. And already they have control of all the intelligence. That's why when even Angela Merkel...
This is really the great defeat of that Satanist of John Podesta, who is one of the biggest Satanists to show up in the WikiLeaks, going to this sperm, blood, and...
they're talking about the spirit burning. The spirit burning.
The spirit. Well, I think that the spirit cooking didn't really result in a positive outcome for the election. So it wasn't really a good, good move.
Well, do you know the reason why? We were doing what's called prayer amplification technology, which I have, and others, and we had really good what it called conservative. I bash the Christians in America, but America is both the best and the worst in the world. We've got some of the nastiest, most demonically possessed, evil people that are even in contact with called civilizations beyond Earth that have transferred technology. And then we have some of the best, most solid Christians on the planet here in America. And it's those prayers are the most powerful and important thing to stop the abominator machine that was destroying America, that was going to really destroy it with the wicked witch I call the Hildebeest. And thank God that American... evangelicals, 81% voted. Believe it or not, 16% of evangelicals voted for Hillary. Shame on you. Voting for a woman who's trying to defend in the third debate a partial birth abortion when even 93% of abortionists that do first trimester wouldn't even think of doing. Okay? And when idiots try to say that there's what the health of the mother, I can debate them and do an intellectual vivisection on air or in front of a jury in a docket or in a deposition. There is no medical indication for terminating a baby just before delivery. Okay, so this monster, Hillary, even among pro-abortionists, even among feminists would say, I don't know if I want to think of that, Because a lot of women would think that it's just a lump of tissue until they see an ultrasound and see it's an actual baby. I mean, I had a dialogue here trying to get into it with Jim Fetzer, and he said, well, he defends abortion. I said, really? He said, well, they don't have an organized nervous system to 12 to 14 weeks. I said, you're not a doctor. I said, not only that, you can't use the criteria of pain as an indication whether they're human or genetically distinct from conception. Otherwise, if I become a satanic maniac because I have the skill sets, I can extract that fetus and do transgenic work to create a super soldier, which, by the way, they wanted me to do in 77, to use my skill sets to interface directly with the cortex of prisoners from West Orange and Irvine to create super soldiers. And people say, Dr. Deagle, you can't do that. I said, I'll give you the tech specs and the list of equipment. So, I'm not just an average broadcaster here. I'm a person that's seen this on the inside. But let me tell you, I only would give a tiny percentage of what I know, because if I told everyone, and I have people challenge me and say they want to know what I know, if you knew what I knew, your heart would stop. I'm not going to tell you, even if you beg me. I'm not. I'm going to tell you what I think you can as little children, so that you'll realize and repent and pray. But let me tell you, things are a lot worse than you can imagine. God help us. Prayer is that important. No, it's later there, 9 hours later, I think, or 8 hours later. Right now it's about a few minutes to 11 Pacific time. I'm going to guess that it's around, 8 p.m. there now?
Yes, 8 p.m. and of course we are about to view the usual evening news. And in Italy, now that Trump has been elected, it's a very bad situation for Matteo Renzi, the Prime Minister, who was, as you know, invited at the White House by Obama, who actually was the only one, only Prime Minister, only head of state, who officially endorsed Hillary Clinton. So he finds himself very embarrassed.
Oh, you're kidding. He actually endorsed Hillary Clinton? Why would he do that? Because that's counter to Italian.
Money. Well, no, but he takes money from the Hillary Foundation, the Clinton Foundation. We have to understand that Matteo Renzi was launched by also that other very evil figure that still goes behind the New World Order, who is Tony Blair. Tony Blair, who is, of course, in courts with these people. So this is really a big...
Oh, okay. So this is a very deep well, is what you're saying. Now,
I think that Trump will have to fight a very big war here. And of course, in Italy, Donald Trump at the moment is even thinking of leaving, maybe for the moment, Matteo Renzi, because he doesn't really know who we can put, because Berlusconi has completely destroyed the conservative side of politics with his scandals, with his the fact also he's an old man doesn't help anymore. He's well over 80 now. Right. And so we are talking about a situation of uncertainty. We are supposed to have elections in Italy in a year and a half, but at the moment, the situation of uncertainty, because, of course, a guy like Matteo Renzi, who openly endorsed Hillary, criticized, and some of his ministers even participated to the Democratic Convention.
Well, here's a question I want to put to you, because I would like to do a parallel analysis of biblical prophetic outworkings and the geopolitical issues and see how they work parallel or show some convergence. And with Brexit, which is leaving of Britain, which was prophesied as long ago as the 1950s by top prophetic analysts, we now have a situation where the rise of Fortress Europe and its own separate military and armaments and so on is very probable after the events of the Hajj, pushed by the Vatican and pushed by globalists. And I'm very concerned that the financial destruction that's come, even in Italy, as you mentioned a few weeks ago, the European Union said, we're not going to, with austerity, allow you to even rebuild your fallen buildings and your waterworks and so on. And the Italians, and it's my guess is, the financial disaster is going to make nations like Italy, France, Germany, etc., lose more of their rights to a superstate and a common military force. And that's another end-time prophecy. Do you think that's very probable? Because I don't see the movements toward autonomy of nations like Austria, Germany, etc. I see the exact opposite. I see economic chaos forcing them into each other's arms to
I think that the winning of Donald Trump is reunifying the conservative forces all over Europe. So we'll have some great surprises in the coming months.
I hope it does. I'm praying for the Europeans that they won't go down that pathway. Leah, let's do some videos this weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, at a time that's good for both of us. Just Skype me as to what days are good, and we'll do some more videos and analysis of these. The Obama, Clinton, Bush era, I call the CIA NSA era. How's that? Because the
Absolutely.
because the power of these intelligence agencies is ended. They don't realize the beast is a mortal wound.
It needs to be rediscussed, and we need maybe to give a major role to Snowden and Assange.
Exactly.